We start today with a very interesting topic and the question, can we report the truth with pictures? So yes, we are going to talk about photojournalism, and I'm very happy to introduce our first keynote speaker, Mrs. Monika Plhal, Acting Editor-in-Chief of the European Pressphoto Agency.
Hello, everybody. I'm pleased to join you today. It must have been a very interesting week for you, and I must admit I'm a bit envious. So, preliminary about my role is I'm working with EPA, the European Pressphoto Agency. In many countries, we're not really known as EPA because we collaborate, we are owned by other agencies, the key national agencies in the respective countries. And when they use our pictures, when they send our pictures to their clients, they use their credit. So in Spain, we're EFE. In Germany, we used to be DPA for 32 years, because before DPA decided to leave EPA and cover the world differently. And we were founded by European agencies. We have had changes. AFP, for example, was a founding member, but then left in 2003, which is when EPA took over the international coverage of the world. We also have APA in Austria and Belga in Belgium, still shareholders, but not active. So it has become a bit diverse. We, as DPA, we are present in more than 150 countries in the world with our own staff photographers, with our own stringers, fixed stringers, and freelance stringers, and also with various partners. Now about photojournalism in general, I would first of all highlight the importance of photos. We human beings, we are visual creatures. Seeing has a very strong impact on us. It is stronger than being told something.
Это большее влияние имеет, если нам что-то говорят. Текст идет прямо...
Words touch our hearts as well, of course, but photos go to the brain and the emotion. Even if they're boring, they also touch emotions. And it is from the field of psychology and the neurology that we know that when information, also in the private context, when information is linked to visual impressions, it is better understood, it has a higher impact, and it is memorized better. That is also with Alzheimer patients, for example. If you tell them something, they will forget immediately. When it touches their emotions, they will remember it. So photos are really, really important. And what we know now from recipient research, they are the trigger to enter into reading. When you look at a newspaper, a magazine, online media, the eyes of a reader first go onto the picture, and the picture drags you into the text. When the picture is interesting, when the topic is interesting, you begin to read. And the stronger the picture is, the higher is the likability and the percentage of reading. Photo, I would rather speak more of visual journalism nowadays, because photos and video almost go together. Our photographers do both most of the time when it is possible. And this photo and video has the effect of eyewitness experience. We as readers, we as observers, we regard it as I saw it with my own eyes. And this is regarded as proof, and it is regarded as truth. Of course, we can also fake with photos, but it is so much easier to tell a lie with words. Now, the importance of photojournalism. Well, I've been in photojournalism for 35 years. You cannot expect me to tell you that it's not important. I began in photojournalism in the era before mobile phones, before internet. And in this era, photo reporters were the eyes of the world. They made a wider audience see what was happening in. Think of Robert Capa, Vietnam War images. Iconic images like these give proof of the impact of photojournalism. But also in everyday topics, it has a high impact. Now, in times of social media, for me, it seems even more important. With a multitude of informations and images, the source reliability and the truthworthiness are key factors for our perception and for our understanding of the world. It is the professional media and their reporters who guarantee this credibility. Social media do not make journalism obsolete. To the contrary, I believe that journalism, including visual journalism, is more important nowadays to guide us through this jungle of true and false informations. Social media contain a lot of opinion, whereas we in journalism swear to facts. Photos and videos are very important for fact-checking and for reporting facts. In Germany, we had this Relotius case. It was a writer, it was a text journalist who got into fiction, from facts to fiction, I would say. He was tempted to forge his articles. And when another journalist who was working with him on several subjects for fact-finding, when he had some doubts about certain things he told, the first step he did was he looked for visual proof. He was searching the internet to find pictures, to find videos, to find the proof for what was being told. For this, Relotius' case is already touching on it. The importance of ethical standards in journalism and especially in photojournalism. What he did was he damaged his own reputation. He was a very respected journalist. He won awards. But it wasn't only that he damaged his career, his credibility. He also damaged the media he was working for, their reputation. And he damaged the credibility and the reputation of our entire profession. When people start to think that you must be careful, almost every picture can be a fake picture, can be manipulated. The same with articles. Then where's the difference to opinion, social media opinion? We must stick to facts. The key ethics in photojournalism is correct and truthful reporting as an independent and unbiased and authentic observer. When you do not know something, when you couldn't see it, just don't tell it. stick to the truth. EPA has a very strict adherence to these standards. When we find mistakes, mistakes happen. It's human. And we're really mad about it when mistakes happen. But we correct them, and we correct them transparently. We tell our clients we made a mistake, sorry. And we have a zero tolerance versus manipulation in pictures. You may think that this bird in the sky can be considered dirt, and you click it away, you erase it. But even for yourself, once you do that with a bird, you may also do it with other things. And in the end, it has to do with credibility. And credibility is the highest virtue, the highest value we journalists have. Never mess with the truth. Never mess with credibility. It's your own integrity and the integrity of our profession. So, what is a way to guarantee or to limit the danger to a minimum? EPA has a principle of working mainly with staff. When we have this continuity of staff reporters and almost staff stringers, which initially I meant by saying we have permanent stringers and permanent partners and their networks. This is quite a guarantee that you will not receive doctored images, because the people will get their money even if it is not as impressive. And once in a while, pictures are not so impressive. You never know before. When we touch on credibility and on ethics, we also have a pretty strict ethics when it comes to graphic content. Graphic meaning shocking pictures. There can be a lot of blood, but it can be other pictures too. Like when you think of the Alan Kurdi picture, that little boy drowned and washed ashore on the Turkish beach, lying there, it became an iconic image as well. And for these images, we always have discussions in our editorial. And with this image, we picked it from a partner in Turkey. We also had discussions, and we decided that it, as shocking as it is, as touching as it is, it does not hurt the person. It does not mean that we are voyeurs or encouraging voyeurism. Pictures have to respect the integrity of the people shown in the pictures, and we always try to take care of this. There is also an ethical question of whether you use handout pictures. Like presently, for example, in Nagorno-Karabakh, where you simply do not get access because both sides keep journalists away from the region, but they offer handouts. It's military handouts, it's defense ministry, it's state pictures. And of course, handouts, also when you use handout pictures from an organization or from a company, there is always an intention involved. There is always a motivation from the one who gives these handouts for free. We can call it propaganda as a general term, if we try maybe not to use it in a too negative way. So the question, do you use handout pictures, propaganda pictures, or not? It's a difficult one to answer. We do. But again, our principle is to do it as transparently as you can do. We would always write directly in the beginning, a handout picture provided by, and the source, and then say what it shows. It's a standard of photojournalism that the first sentence always gives an explanation of what you see and when and where. This is also for research. It's important. You could say, well, I see it in the picture, but when you search for something, it has to be there, so you describe it. And these pictures, we always start with a handout picture shows to alert the media who receive our service that they know the difference between a journalistic product and a product picked up. In the case of Nagorno-Karabakh, we take it from both sides. It's that balance you can offer, that neutrality that you can offer to say, hey, we cannot go there, we cannot offer more, but if we decided, we, the agencies, the press as such, if we decided not to use any pictures, we cannot offer our own coverage, and we do not pick from anybody, then this event, I hate to call a war an event, this happening, what is going on, this news is not present for visual content. And back to the beginning, visual is so important. We need visuals. Now, the difficulties and dangers of reporting have become bigger with almost every year, I would say. The main difficulty is, as in my example, is to get access. In order to report about something going on in photos or video, you need to be on the spot. A text can be written by the Moscow correspondent, and he picks his informations as thoroughly as possible from agencies, from nowadays also social media, from various channels. But in order to have photos of your own, videos of your own, you have to have a person there. And this is also that piece of authenticity that makes a difference. One of the highest values of democracy is free press, the mandate of free press, and the obligation by authorities to give access and to give information. But believe me, it's always a struggle, and a pandemic doesn't make it easier. It's not helpful. It helps the other side to have an argument why they cannot let you in, and not only in war zones. It applies to just average coverages, even a red carpet, even a business conference, a balance. It's all about access. And when access is limited, we, the international agencies, we insist on at least having a pool regulation in place, which means one can enter and then distributes shares with the other agencies. This is a way to avoid even more handout coverage, because also governments like to have a photographer of their own and give the photos they like to the public and only see the nice pictures of themselves. So pool is a lot better than handout, but your own coverage is always to be preferred. Now, when we speak of access, I said presently the conflict in Nagorno-Karabakh, but of course also Belarus. We had we had a normal coverage in Belarus for years. And then there were elections. And then there was a result that was not considered credible. And then the protests began. And then the coverages began also from international agencies like us. We have a staff photographer, one of the few female photographers we have in Minsk. And for her, it was maybe a bad coincidence. In order to be able to work, you need a work permit, you need accreditation. And this accreditation is always given for 1 year. It had never been an issue.
Of course.
And she had to renew her accreditation. She hadn't done anything what we would think of as wrong, but she simply did not get the prolongation. And there are tricks to avoid it. You simply do not respond to mails. You do not respond to phone calls. You disappear. It's all because of the pandemic, of course. So without an accreditation, you have the problem that you are doing something illegal. And when you're caught in the street, taking pictures, maybe even not of a protest, you work illegally. The same happened to the other international agencies, even accreditations that were still running for half a year. They were withdrawn. And they sometimes were withdrawn without even the people learning about it. I can't say, this is again about truth, I can't say they were not told. Maybe they were told but just didn't get that mail or whatever. And you will be arrested. You will be put to prison. We have many, many cases of journalists arrested in Belarus now. But of course we want to cover. This is too important not to cover. So what do? Luckily, we have a network of stringers. And we work with stringers who still have their accreditation. But in order to protect these stringers, we now do not give their names anymore in our service, which is a shame because every photographer is so proud to have his name under the image and to see his picture used in online media, to have his picture on a front page. And now it only says stringer or STR as an abbreviation. But we all understand that it is important to do so. And I will try to give you a little impression of pictures from Belarus at the moment, and then be back in a minute. And I hope that sharing of screen will work. This is usage in Hong Kong. Usage in LaGuardia. German FAZ. El País. The Guardian. Der Standard Austria. And here we see that an EPA image even made it to the European Parliament in Brussels. because Svetlana Tikhanovskaya showed an EPA picture when she was holding a speech there. I will now stop sharing.
Thank you very much.
That did work. And last but not least, I have to mention the dangers of reporting. We have already spoken about the intimidations, the aggressions by authorities, but I must say that the threats by ordinary people have increased immensely. There is a much higher chance that people will attack you when you're working as a journalist in public. It can happen during protests, riots, but even soccer games. We had several photographers, visual reporters injured during the Black Lives Matter protests, even in a soccer stadium where fans would throw subjects at you and hit you on the head. What can you do to protect your people? Our main recipe, call it recipe, is that we tell every person working for us that his safety, her safety, always comes first. We do not encourage people to run risks. We do not push them. The opposite is we warn them. Don't risk your personal, it doesn't have to be the life, but to be injured. But of course, many of those things we have to cover are dangerous. And we equip our reporters with protective gear. And in areas where it comes close to war, civil war, riots, clashes, we also offer professional safety trainings. We're not holding them ourselves, but there are institutions that offer them. And my personal conclusion when we think about this is, as important photos and visuals are, and they can even trigger social consequences and political consequences. Photojournalism, visual journalism is vital for the society, but no photo is worth the life of a photographer. Any questions?
First of all, thank you very much. This was a very impressive speech. And I think most of our participants, young journalists, they know how important photos are, but I think you emphasized it clearly. And what I also liked a lot was how you, emphasized how important credibility is. And this fits very well into our conference this week. So does anyone have any questions for Mrs. Monika Plhal from the European Pressphoto Agency? Mr. Dr. Wolfgang Ressmann just told me again that there was something in the chat. I think So Mr. Mkotishtunian say something, because you mentioned something in the beginning, and I think he was referring to that. So I'm going to read it out loud. So Mr. Mkotishtunian says, a note for speaker from Armenia. I ensure you, Armenia and Karabakh, allow journalists to work in war zone. They are not kicked out. I can try to link you with some international journalists who work right now there. So it is not a correct information. In the first 2 days of our online conference, we and our invited speakers talked about it.
Well, we do have our stringers there, and we get the reports from them that access is very limited, roads are blocked, and there is also a rule that you cannot take pictures of officers, of servicemen, of soldiers. When you publish those pictures, you commit a crime. But I'd really love to go into this further. So if you could connect us, I'd be pleased to.
Yes, of course.
Hello, can I talk again?
Yes, sure. So this is Julian.
Dear Monika, thank you very much. Really, it was very interesting speech. Just because, you know, like twice I could by this time, like go, I'm not as a photojournalist, just go there, but I had my camera with me and I did photos. So the impression, like when you compared and it showed sort of like equality between this policy from Azerbaijani side, like not allowing journalists go there, and between Armenia, the incorrection is here. In fact, no one else can go even to second line or third line in Azerbaijan. So that's completely another thing. In Armenian case, like journalists have really access to go there, so are not kicked out, but there are restrictions. And some restrictions are for their safety and some restrictions are for national safety. So thing is that journalists can get there, but there are some restrictions, which kind of photo take, which part of like this sort of weapon or important commander, they can't be in that picture. It's also sometimes the warrior themselves, they decide that they don't want to be in the picture. This is like completely different thing. And again, I really will do my best to make like a link and connect you with some international journalist who is working there. And probably you also heard some of them were injured, and there are also new cases about this, like it's dangerous working on the ground. So it's also very individual decision for journalists themselves to take this risk or not.
I do not see a complete difference between the reporting and avoiding graphic images. If I think back to a picture by EPA photographer Sergei Ilnitsky, it was awarded by the World Press Photo. It showed a table, or it still shows, a table where people were having coffee or breakfast. And the table is now filled with glass from a window. A curtain is torn and you see blood stains. You do not have to show the wound of a person necessarily to show that something horrible happened. And it is always a bit like walking on a tightrope. Whether you expose people to the eyes, voyeuristic eyes of others by showing them in a horrible situation, or whether you grant them a human respect. I don't think you have to show the bloodiest pictures to make people understand. And you also have to think of the relatives who may see these pictures and infants.
Thank you very much for this reply. There is one last question from our audience, and I think it works quite well with the phone. So, yeah, Mr. Minoas Andriotis wants to ask another question.
Yeah, I have a question concerning different international topics that we get journalistic content about. There are some topics where we get less journalistic content, and especially photos. I, for example, think of the civil war in Turkey in the southeast regions, where whole cities got bombed and destroyed by the Turkish military. But I've never seen photos from that war in big media in Germany. Maybe I haven't seen it, but at least there aren't photos or information frequently. For example, from Syria, where also war is going on, we have more photos than from Turkey. That's for sure, I think. So both wars, both situations are dangerous, but we get more photos from the one topic than from the other. What would you say about that?
No, it's certainly the question of access, and I do not agree to your assumption that we see so many pictures from Syria.
Mm-hmm. Okay. This is interesting. The phone, Zoom, we're really like, it's really an online conference, I'd say.
I shouldn't have said, don't expect any technological knowledge from me.
I think you did very well.
From that moment on, the tone was gone.
No, I'm very glad that you joined us today, and yeah, very grateful for your speech and also for the questions from our participants, and again for your answers. So thank you very much, Mrs. Monika Plhal from the European Pressphoto Agency, for being here today and for taking the time.